right. I am Jill. I am the Miss Jill in Miss Jill's Lower Alabama Garden, and I'd like to give you a garden tour today. It is the middle of July. Right now we're looking at my Anna apple, which is right outside my garden. This tree is about 5 years old, but we just planted it in the ground. It's been in a pot waiting, patiently waiting. So those should be ready to pick any time now. And this is my Miss Lauren. Miss Lauren is a little girl who lives across the way. Her teepee. And y'all, I'm about green beaned out, so I have not been picking these the way I would if I wanted them to continue to produce. At this point, I'm ready to let things start drying on the vine and saving some seeds, maybe having some dried beans. And then these are my Bubba Bush baby okras. Baby Bubba Bush okra. But I like it. This is the first year I've grown this. The only really gross thing is that they don't seem to drop their blossoms, so they get fuzzy like that. But if you notice, underneath there is this beautiful little okra. We'll give it a day or so, and then we'll pick it. They're really starting to produce. I mean, look at the cluster on that. And I've been picking off of these, gosh, 1s and 2s for at least a month. But now it's getting hot. They're really starting to come in. This is a little Anaheim. It's done nothing but struggle. I'm not the best at peppers, obviously. I'm trying to feed them more. I did give them some Triple 13 just because it's nice, well-rounded blend of minerals. So I'm liking the Bubba Bush. This is outside the garden. And I have this beautiful crop of morning glories that not only screens my garden a little bit, but it's pretty. And it is fighting it out. And I don't mind having two aggressive things fighting each other with the Malabar spinach. Here's the Malabar spinach. And it's starting to go to seed. There are the seeds. Jury's still out on Malabar spinach. We've been cooking some, and I like it okay. Cooked, I do not like it raw. I did find out that it dehydrates really well. So we'll see when I use that dehydrated stuff this winter if it continues. All right, so my pride and joy star this year has been in this corner here, right inside the garden gate, this early girl. But as you can tell, she's done. It's just too hot. I tried to push her on through with some fish emulsion and Triple 13, but y'all, it's just too hot. I mean, it's really hard. And this particular spot in my garden gets sun. This spot gets more sun than any other spot in the garden. And this deep in the south, right here along the Gulf, it's just too hot. So she's done. So I will be pulling her out. I'll be harvesting all these. Probably pickle some green tomatoes. And a lot of these, if you notice, a lot of these got rotten spots. That's why I haven't picked them. Without the circular system of the tomato working, which this is obviously dead, most of these tomatoes will just sunburn. They'll just bake out here in the sun. So if you notice here, it's rotten. So I need to pick any of these that I feel like I can salvage, even if they're green, and bring them in, because they're just going to bake. I'll get none of them if I try to let them ripen on the vine, because this vine is not sucking up any water anymore. I mean, it's dying, so it's not getting the nutrients, and that blood flow, or not blood flow, but the water flow through the vascular system of the tomato is what keeps the produce from cooking on the vine. So that's not working anymore. It's time for her to go. Here's another okra I have tucked in here. My celery, it's struggling. I had one plant that got something in it. It looked like a vine borer. Got into one of my other plants So I don't know if these are going to make it. I think in this spot in the sun, it's too much sun for this one. So if it makes it, I will move it when it has a better chance of surviving over someplace shady. My eggplants, they are starting to produce, y'all. My purple basil has been phenomenal this year. And these are all peppers. Some are peppers I just planted. That kind of chlorotic looking one is the lilac bell. That's its natural state, I've come to decide. It's just not doing that great. Guess I'm just not that good a pepper grower. Somebody was telling me that they are heavy feeders, so I've been trying to feed more with fish emulsion, and then I've added triple 13 just to see if it makes a difference. But I guess I'm just not a pepper person. A little morning glory for my pollinators. Now these are, like I said, I've been trying to push. I've never gotten tomatoes to last through the heat of midsummer, so I've been trying to push these through. I've given them compost out of my compost bin, and I did see a difference when I gave them the compost. You can see a difference in the top growth, how much sturdier it is as opposed to down here. And I did give them some triple 13 and a little fish emulsion, but the only one that seems to be doing well and still alive is this beefsteak and this Husky Cherry 100. It seems to, you can see that, it's above my head, so it's starting to put out more clusters. I think it's actually doing better in the heat. But this is my Arkansas Traveler, and you can see she's tired. Now she does not get as much sun as the early girl, but if you notice the tips of that over against the fence, she's done. And this is even with compost, adding compost to her roots, being on drip tape, and fish emulsion. Now this purple Russian, I did pull one purple Russian. This other one, after feeding it compost and some triple 13, the top looks healthy. So as long as the top looks healthy, I know I'm not going to grow this tomato again next year. I just am not happy with the fruit. It's not the right tomato for my region. It cracks. But as long as it's putting out this fruit, which it is looking pretty good, I'm going to let it keep going. Now down here, where I took out a purple Russian, this is an heirloom, one of the ones that I started from a sucker. So I have one there, and then behind this watering can, I have one there. And the watering can is strategically placed to protect that little baby from the extreme afternoon sun until it gets established, and then I'll take it away. I'll also use cardboard boxes. I'll also use baskets. Let me show you this. This basket right here I've been using. To shade plants. Here's my harvest basket for this morning. If you notice, things are changing. No longer is it beans and tomatoes and okra. Now I'm going more eggplant, the last of the tomatoes, and cucumbers. Lots of peppers too. Lots of peppers coming on. So let's go back up the path here. And this is my yellow pear. She is taking over the world. She started out just on this end of the trellis, and now she's taken over about half of this little cattle panel trellis, and she's healthy, y'all. She doesn't seem to mind the heat. And my mom said that she could always get yellow pears to push through, and she's in Texas. So I'm going to let this girl go. I'm picking yellow tomatoes every day. And they dehydrate really well. So I've been dehydrating a lot of yellow pears. Alright, what else do we have going on? My Swiss chard is hanging in there. I tasted it. It's still a little bitter. So I'm just going to keep it alive. I've had Swiss chard last 2 years in other gardens in other parts of the country that I've grown, so I'm going to see if I can get this through. You know, we've had lots of rain, so it's got lots of new growth on it, but boy, it does not like the heat. So next year, if I plant Swiss chard, I will plant it behind me in the part of the garden that does not get all of the sun. Now here's one of the things I planted for my fall garden. This is another cucumber. Now remember, here in the deep south, fall gardens go from mid-July till the first frost. So I'm expecting produce off of that for a while. I've also put out some bell peppers that I picked up at, I don't know where I picked them up, Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart or the garden center. But I picked these up. We only get Bonnie plants here, so they're all pretty much the same every place you go. But these are varieties I didn't have, so I went ahead and picked them up. Now this is interesting. This was one of my kales from last year. And instead of pulling it up, I cut it off. And I have 3 or 4 of these right now. I mean, it was just ravaged with cabbage butterflies. But I thought I might be able to get it through. The rootstock seemed real strong. So I cut it off, and this is what's happening. So this is an experiment, because if you've watched any of my other videos, my whole garden is an experiment. Let's see what happens to this. Can I get this through to the fall? It's getting adequate water. It's getting adequate nutrients. Can I get this through to the fall? And will it be bitter? So right now it's still tasting pretty bitter. But as it cools off, let's see what happens. And there's an eggplant. Eggplant are really nice. I'm picking them young. I don't like them to get big seeds and get bitter. But boy, this eggplant right here, I planted it in January in the house. As it gets hotter and hotter, she just seems to love it more and more. So it is a time for eggplant. Lots of blooms. And then back here along the fence, I've planted, let me go over here, you can see this one better, more okra, because as it gets hotter, the okra comes on strong. Here's another baby bubba bush. And there's another of the kale that I cut off. And another pepper. So I've got stuff crammed all in here. And look, there are the yellow pears. They're just going crazy. And I'm happy. That makes me happy. Step back through here. Let's see, we got some cucumbers. My basil is doing well. This is my zucchini, and it looks like it's doing so well. But if you look down deep, I am fighting this really hard. And I put this out here so I would talk about it. This is a diatomaceous earth, and I noticed some vine borers on the stem right there. So I cut it open with my garden scissors, and I packed it full of diatomaceous earth. I didn't see any worms. I think I got it when it was just at the larva. But I have never been successful with growing zucchini here. I get big, beautiful plants, and I get it to set some fruit, and then I lose it. So I have been fighting hard with this on these vine borers, and what you know, when you know you have a problem, you'll see this. Let's see if I can show it to you. It looks like a clear gelatin coming out of the stem, and if you see that on a leaf, you need to get that leaf out of there. If you see it on a baby fruit, you need to get that out of there, because that means those eggs have been laid in there. So I'm going to fight it. Maybe this will be the first year I ever get zucchini. You know, I see people around here and they have zucchini and yellow squash coming out their ears, and I can't ever seem to make it happen. So I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to figure this out. This is another cucumber. And amongst the oregano, I've been picking cucumbers. This is a nice little plant here. This is a society garlic. Society garlic is a good garlic substitute, and I actually have another one that's hiding over there amongst the zucchini right now. Society garlic is a good garlic replacement. When I don't have garlic, I use these leaves. The flowers are also edible, and I just think they're so pretty. So I will definitely be dividing and sharing my society garlic with some of my friends. And this is my oregano. I let it go to seed and bloom, but it's ready to be trimmed up. This is the Mr. Stripey that we've tried. Either this isn't a good spot to grow a tomato, or this tomato is just a dud. It's not setting on one fruit. Just not been good for me. So I'll probably not grow Mr. Stripey next year, or maybe I'll give it one more try and plant it in another location and see how it does, but Mr. Stripey's not been successful. Those are my sweet potatoes there. All that green there, craziness, is my sweet potato patch. Alright. This beautiful specimen here is my Clemson spineless okra. And this is one that I planted out in the garden, I believe in March. And it's not really done much. Okra likes the heat. It's just going to stay dormant. It'll survive. It might produce a pod or two. But if you want okra to really produce, it needs the heat. So I planted this one here. I've also planted new ones down the fence row there that will give us a little shade in the strong sun, afternoon sun. Here's another eggplant, and if you notice my Malabar spinach, once again, it's competing with everything. So when it gets out of control, I have no problems whacking that thing off. But look how beautiful these leaves are. This is all Malabar spinach. Took me a while to get Malabar spinach going. I had some seeds and I tried it 3 or 4 times, and I kept seeing how people said, oh, Malabar spinach is so easy to grow in the south, it likes the heat, and I could never get it to do, it would just fizzle. And so I bought new seeds, and this new batch of seeds, there must have been something wrong with the other batch of seeds. I don't even know where I got them from, but I bought these from Baker Creek, and this has been robust. And this is a Painted Lady Broadbean. Haven't gotten any beans, but it's a pretty vine and beautiful flowers. Here's a little cucumber that I planted. It's been struggling, so in the heat of the afternoon I've been covering it with that basket, and it seems to help it to hold its moisture. This is another zucchini. It's got some stuff going on. I'm having to keep a real close eye out for any signs of damage to leaves and get them out of there. Another one right there. I had to cut some leaves off, big leaves off of it yesterday. I don't know, y'all. Keep trying. I'm hoping that this is a heirloom variety. It's an Italian heirloom that maybe it will do okay. These are volunteer blueberry bushes off of my big blueberry, which has struggled the last few years. So I'm hoping that I'm just going to let these babies go. And then the way they're going right now, I have a little 4 or 5 blueberry bushes right through here. Sorry about the air conditioners, y'all. This is what I got. I got the little patch of land between the houses and the air conditioners and the propane tank. Yeah. Alright, these are my beans. They're done. I think they're drying on the vine. They'll come out soon. I'll plant something else. But remember, I'm going to have all kinds of other stuff coming in to plant in August, September, and October. That's when we'll plant all our lettuces, beets, radishes, carrots, onions, garlic. What else will I plant then? Lots and lots. So, you know, this is very much succession gardening for us. my garden's never empty. So when people talk about amending the soil in the fall, letting it rest over the winter, I don't really have a winter. I always have stuff growing. There's some sage, some more eggplant. These eggplants are just doing so nice. They're so pretty. So because of the space I have about 1,000 square feet. I had some permanent things like this Satsuma. Nice tree, but it's smack in the middle of my garden space. I had to work around that. I had to work around the blueberry bushes. There's one here. And there's a smaller one here. So I had to do and I had to work around the propane tank, the air conditioners, lots going on back here. So I have roughly 1,000 square feet in this garden, minus the air conditioners and the propane tank, so it's probably more like 800 square feet. I have to have a garden path to go from one end to the other. I have a gate on each side, and I have to be able to get my wheelbarrow through, or not my wheelbarrow, with that big garden wagon I have. So I made the path just big enough for the garden wagon to fit through. Because I'm on a slope, and I don't think you can see it here, but the water drains this way. So it comes off of my neighbor's property through my fence and this way. And without things like these logs here to slow it down and stop it, all of this would just wash. So since I've put the logs in, and I staked them, let's see if I can find a good example. With these, they're just the leftover remnants from when I made my cages, my tomato trellises. And so if you see here, there's a stake, there's a stake, there's a stake to keep my logs from rolling, especially when I step on them. And it's worked out pretty well. So not only does let's get back up here, not only does the water come this way, it also comes this way. So not only do I have logs stopping water this way, I also have them when it starts to turn, going the opposite direction to help hold all my nutrients in, help slow the rain down, and help it sink in. So it's kind of hugelkultur with these big logs. It's kind of holistic, what's the word they call it? Not back to Eden. When you do things contoured on slope, I'll think of it in a minute. So it's a hybrid of a whole bunch of different kinds of gardening methods. Here's another big log I got. And it's kind of me being cheap and not wanting to put in raised beds until I knew how this garden was going to function. Until I knew how I was going to use this space and what was going to grow best where. I didn't want to put in a whole bunch of formal garden beds because I needed to grow some in this space before I made that decision. The other thing about it is because of where my permanent fixtures are that I have to work around, I couldn't do square beds. I would have just a lot of loss of space. So this is what I did to maximize my garden space, and it's free. And if it doesn't work, I'll just put it back out at the curb for the trash because that's where I got it from. This is all stuff my neighbors put out, including the pine straw. The pine straw that I do my garden path with. I don't put pine straw on my beds, but will do leaf mold and compost. All right, so that's where we are this time in mid-July. Strawberries, these are new plants, so they're only putting on little berries. Thanks for following me, y'all. Happy growing.